very grateful to her, to Mrs. Mahbooba Mufti. She also wants the same things that we want. Elections are over. Let's work together.
जो इंडिपेंडेंट जीत के आ सकते हैं, उनके राब्ते में आप हैं, आप बात उनसे कर रहे हो,
तो स्वाभाविक है बात तो करनी ही पड़ेगी। Namaste and Jai Hind, ladies and gentlemen. It's the mega battle for the states. The state of Haryana and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir both have two big stories to say, and in a few hours from now, the ballot will then consolidate into seat allocations. Kiski kismat mein kya likha hai, everything will be crystal clear, ladies and gentlemen. But will it be a big khichdi of sorts, or will there be clear mandates from the voters of Jammu and Kashmir and in Haryana, and in whose favor? We will see all of that. And there's only one destination that you need to be with. Here, CNN News 18, the battle for the states. I'm Anand Narasimhan, with me Rahul Shivshankar and Zaka Jacob, our managing editor, Rahul Shivshankar, our consulting editor, Zaka Jacob as usual with all the magic on the magic wall as we get into counting in a short while from now, ladies and gentlemen. But the two stories, viewers, can be as separate or as different from each other, or perhaps the same thought continuum in both can be manifest based on the numbers. Let's look at Haryana. Before we bring in our guests here in studio who are going to be there right through Result Day live coverage, let's just get a quick recap of what the exit pollsters predicted as far as Haryana is concerned. Will these numbers finally consolidate on the bottom of the screens in favor of the party that's been seen to be running away with this election? Will it be just a two-way fight? Is there going to be a third person in the mix, and will that clear the pitch? We'll have to wait and watch. But the pollsters believe it's a clear mandate in favor of the Congress party. This election in Haryana, as per the exit pollsters, 5 of them who we have put here, Matrice, Dhruv Research, PMark, People's Pulse and Dainik Bhaskar, believe it's going to be a two-party fight. It's a two-way fight. The thirds, the others like the Aam Aadmi Party, the INLD, the JJP will not have too much of an influence here on the votes, because the seats will be taken in a runaway fashion. And then why stop at 60 if it's a two-horse race and it's the swing anti-incumbency working against the BJP and perhaps a pro-Congress wave in Haryana? Will they then take 70 plus? Will they just run away with this election? Will this be a historic mandate for someone like Bhupinder Singh Hooda, who says he's neither retired nor tired? We'll have to wait and watch. But these are the numbers. This is where it's consolidating. In a few hours from now, we'll know what the actual picture is. Projection and reality mein fark hai, or does it mirror the exit poll and a mega poll of polls? Zaka Jacob?
Well, one interesting thing is, I have the breakup for how, this is the 2019 Vidhan Sabha, this is how it played out in 2019, the last assembly election. BJP had 40, they were 5 short of the halfway mark. They managed to get the JJP on board, the JJP had 10. So the 40 plus 10 that crossed the halfway mark. The Congress fell short, substantially short last time around. But one thing we want to try and extrapolate is the Lok Sabha election verdict. The Lok Sabha election, 10 seats in Haryana, 5 went to the Congress and 5 went to the BJP. If you were to extrapolate that result on the map of Haryana by assembly segments, this is what it would look like. Let's look at the BJP leads. Now the BJP leads 5 Lok Sabha seats. If you were to spread this out in assembly segments, a bulk of it is here in the Sonipat, Panipat region, the Karnal region, which is the hometown of course, the former Chief Minister, Mr. Khattar, and then, of course, the urban southern belt, which is Gurgaon, Faridabad, going all the way up to Bhiwani. So, basically, some of the urban pockets here in the south, and this sort of GT corridor, as they call it. So, the best case scenario for the BJP would be 44. 44 if the result tomorrow mirrors exactly, or the result that's happening on Tuesday mirrors exactly what happened in the Lok Sabha. Unfortunately for the BJP, none of the exit polls are giving it 44 seats. The best case scenario, the median that we are seeing, the poll of polls is 26. So that's a difference of about 18 seats. Now you look at the opposite end, you look at what is the best and worst case scenario as far as the Congress is concerned. You look at the Congress's leads as far as the 2024 Lok Sabha, if it were to translate into the Vidhan Sabha, Congress would have 42. But here again, very interestingly, none of the exit polls, the bottom end of all the exit polls is about 50 for the Congress. So the Congress is actually doing better than what it did just 3 months ago in the Lok Sabha election. This would also translate into a little more, a varied sort of geographic representation for the Congress. It's got the Rohtak belt, obviously, because the Hudas are from there. It's got the Sirsa belt, which is where Kumari Selja comes from. It's got this whole Jind Hisar belt. Look at all of this yellow. These are seats that the JJP won. So if it were to translate the way it translated as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned, 7 out of the 10 seats that the JJP won will go into the Congress's kitty. And this, in a sense, answers the question that we've all been trying to understand. Will the Jat vote split? Will the JJP, INLD, AAP, will that act as a spoil sport? Or will all of those go into the Congress's kitty? If you go back to
the 2019 number, overall, the vote share that happened, and also if we have the 2024 Lok Sabha vote share overall. See, if you look at the 2024 Lok Sabha vote
2019,
share, 2019 vote share. Now, see, this is 31%, right? There is a gap of about 9-10% here, okay? But if it's a two-horse race and this JJP vote shifts to the Congress, the INLD vote shifts to the Congress, the BJP got about, at 2024 Lok Sabha, about 45-46% vote share.
Correct.
Let's say they retain their 46% vote share, but if this all consolidates in favor of the Congress, then it's a runaway victory because they will have more than 50% of the votes.
What it also means is, so 16 plus 7, you're roughly looking at about a quarter of the vote. A quarter of the vote went between the JJP and the INLD. That quarter of a vote, even if half of it, even if 12% goes to the Congress will go above the BJP's vote share. BJP is roughly around 40% vote share, Congress around 30%. It needs to bridge that gap of about 10%.
And in a two-horse race, a 1%, 1.5% vote share, the difference itself means all the seats go one way. Rahul Shivshankar, you would like to take it with our guests?
Yeah, look, Anand, first of all, I like the way you started by saying Kismet. So we've already ruled out performance clearly. So Kismet, if it's all left to Kismet, then obviously we're all in the wrong profession because we can't really, But look, I think what really is coming through from this number, and if you go by the exit polls, and if you're talking about 60 plus for the Congress, it has to become a two-horse race. What happened in 2024 Lok Sabha will have to sustain itself for the Congress party. They managed to build a caste coalition. And let me tell you, the Jats, 31% of the vote, Jat vote shifted to the Congress in 2024 Lok Sabha. Dalits, 40% of that vote went to increase of 40% for the Dalits, for the Congress. And OBCs, 29%. So all block, the entire consolidation that the BJP had been surviving on for years altogether, for 10 years altogether, and at least 2 assembly elections, all fractured and went to the Congress party. Now, if that continues, then obviously you're going to see that 60%, 60% of all the seat number.
Yeah, Amitabh Mattu, Rashid Kitwai, Aarti Tikku, Advaita Kala, namaste, and thank you very much for being with us through this coverage. And let's hope the viewers enjoy your analytics and your insights too. Amitabh ji?
I think it's clear that there is a huge anti-incumbency. Luck does play a role, but obviously you can't have a swing like that just based on fortune, a good fortune. There is a consolidation of the caste, especially the Jats and the Dalits coming together and coalescing a formidable force for the Congress. I think the writing is on the wall. It was clear for anecdotally anyone who travelled through Haryana that there was this deep angst against the establishment. So that deep angst amongst the people of Haryana is reflecting itself in the votes and the polls.
Is it going to be similar to Punjab, Advaita Kala, where people just decided they want to vote one way? They voted for the AAP. They may regret it 6 months later, contrary to, some people will claim that. They may say, some of the other parties are clawing their way back. But in Haryana, would we see this kind of a move away from one party to the other? No Aam Aadmi Party in the fray, no JJP in the fray, no INLD, or are you willing to think otherwise, Advaita Kala?
I'm definitely willing to think otherwise because I feel that in 2019 we had similar conversations about Haryana and the BJP crawled its way back to power. Respectively, had to do a coalition alliance, but managed to stay in power for the entire term. And even this time round, I think you're going to see something interesting. I don't think it's going to be as much of a washout as the numbers are saying, or the exit polls.
Why do you say so?
I say so because I feel that there is a coalescing with the larger parties, it's not quite going to be as split, but on the other hand, the impact of parties like AAP and people like that hasn't really turned out as much as one would expect, despite them having that big fallout with the Congress. Subsequently, I also feel that we're overestimating the Jat impact and the fact that they are truly very upset with the BJP. I don't think there's anything per se on the ground, when you think of it on the ground as opposed to just the figures, that there is this big friction or this fission between the BJP and the Jats. That's really not there. So I think, yes, Bhupinder Hooda is a tall leader. He's definitely raring to go. He's neither tired or retired, as he said today. So that's a good sign for the Congress. But on the other hand, I think the BJP also has managed to make some changes at the top right before the election, and I don't think necessarily we're going to see the numbers that we're expecting.
See, not everybody can do a Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt used to do the last 40 meters. He used to win the race there in that last 40 meters. You think the BJP can claw its way back in this last 10, 15 days, 2-3 weeks time, Rashid Kitwai?
No, I don't think so. I think Advita is being very optimistic. You see, what we are going to see in Haryana tomorrow is going to be a repeat of what happened in 2009, when the Congress, got 67 seats. I'm not saying with 67 seats, but it will be above 60 seats. And a lot of it has got very little to do with the state government, with performance or non-performance of Khattar government. Here is a situation when this, Jawan, Pahalwan, Kisan, all three, these are sort of undoing by the center. So it is center of, precisely Narendra Modi government that is responsible for likely BJP rout in Haryana.
Can I come in very quickly?
Yeah.
I think, there is a tendency to overestimate what these tall leaders in the Congress can do. We did that with Rajasthan, we did that with Baghel, we did that with Kamal Nath in Congress, and we're doing it again with Hooda.
There's just one small point. Now look, again, I'm putting a caveat here because the access numbers, if you really look at them, they seem to suggest that the BJP is not really losing a lot of its vote share. So Anand, this is very interesting because even in the Lok Sabha elections, we saw that the BJP hadn't really got smashed as far as its vote shares. Even in Karnataka, when it lost, its vote share didn't dip considerably. In Haryana, they say it's going to retain about 37-38%. If you go by the Access My India poll. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but at least on the vote shares, pretty much all the exit pollsters got it right on the vote shares. It's just that in the seat transfers, you don't know. Now, is that because, and Anand, that's the point you were making, is that because in some seats, yes, exactly, in some seats, is it true that there has been a greater consolidation behind the Congress, and perhaps in others, there hasn't been? So, fundamentally, we don't know really.
I think the thought process is, if they say 38, 39%, it's just about 1% off, 1.5% off their 2019 number. And it's about 4-5% off their Lok Sabha number. In Lok Sabha, Aarti Tikku, would you agree that in Haryana, the India Alliance or the opposition had a far more concerted plan where they consolidated the votes? They didn't field candidates against each other. Here, they are all fielding candidates against each other. Will that diffuse, or is the voter now smart enough saying ki dena to ek saath hi dena?
Well, I think I would agree with Advaita actually that BJP is not going to perform as badly as everyone is predicting. And despite the fact that there is anti-incumbency factor, I think BJP is still going to retain its vote share, as Rahul was pointing out, the Axis poll, which I think is accurate because of the ground reality, and also the fact that many people think that Jats are completely behind the Congress and not really, they have no link or no association with the BJP. That is completely wrong. There might be some effect of course, the farmers' agitation, and of course, there is Vinesh Phogat factor also. We have seen that the Phogat politics also played a role in the last including parliamentary politics, parliamentary elections. So I think overall, if you really look at how India Alliance has consolidated its vote, is not by offering something extraordinary to the voter in Haryana, but it's I think, some amount of anti-incumbency, and also the fact that a lot of these smaller parties which came together, and many people think that JJP, INLD are going to completely back the voter who was with JJP or INLD will go behind the Congress? I don't think so. I think the vote will split between the BJP
You believe
and the
this show
Congress.
that Jat factor on the
Shella Rashid
wall.
is also with us.
Dalit
I'll come to
factor.
Shella after
Pull out
Zaka
the
makes a
Dalit
point.
factor, because don't forget that
Yeah.
these two regional players have actually tied up with
I'll
Dalit
get to
parties.
the Dalit parties, which is why where it is interesting. I mean, people talk a lot about the Jat factor and somehow the Jats determining a bulk of the seats in Haryana. It's not like that. But because they are the dominant agrarian caste and they've really been the dominant political caste as well. In fact, all the chief ministers up until Mr. Khattar happen to be Jats. This is the Jat factor. So there are about 30 out of 90 seats where the Jats are dominant. So that's about a third of the assembly. Even in the last assembly in 2019, even though the Congress got only 30 and the BJP got 40, the Congress had 11 seats out of the 30 the Jat dominated. The BJP had 9, even though the Congress was 5% vote share lesser than the BJP. Now, if you were to add the filter, the 2024 Lok Sabha, if that mirrored on this map, how would that show? So this is the Congress's leads. So remember, there are 30 seats that are Jat dominated. The Congress from 11 would go up to 23. So which means, yes, there is a Jat consolidation if you were to simply mirror the Lok Sabha map onto this map. Now, my sense is it will perhaps, the direction in which it is going, it will be greater.
Absolutely. She raised the Vinesh Fogart factor. But remember, the Lok Sabha elections actually happened closer to
the Olympics and that entire mahal of the protest and all that.
So yeah, she didn't campaign, you're right. But then I've been hearing that even within the Jats, there's a little bit of resentment that, Vinesh has got the lion's share of the attention. So, I mean, there are internal dynamics there.
But Haryana is not just Jats. That's 30 seats.
That's
the remaining
right.
60
There are
seats
Ahirs,
is the
Yadavs.
remaining 35 Jatis. 36 Jati is what they say. And
Ahirs,
the BJP's
Yadavs, big
arithmetic
ones.
has been the non-Jat vote.
That's right. So will there be a counter consolidation?
Will there be a counter consolidation?
So that's what I'm saying. The Jat community is a very voluble community. So they're very visible. And that is not necessarily something that makes other communities feel comfortable. So you're going to see some...
because there has been messaging that said कि जब जाटों का राज था तब तुम्हारा क्या हाल था? Do you know that? So that's something which has been said. Rashid Kitwai?
No, but that's not sticking. The BJP's strategy of opposing the dominant caste, not only in Haryana, several of the states is going to backfire. It did in Uttar Pradesh also. It's happening in Haryana. It will happen in Maharashtra also, because when there is a popular sentiment against the government, you look at again Sheila Dikshit government in 2013. It fell because it was not that Sheila Dikshit was not doing something right, but because of the center and central policies, and Haryana being very close to Delhi, I think there is a huge effect and it cuts across, caste, community.
in Maharashtra,
etc.
sir, Mr.
On a
Shinde
local
is the
election,
chief
you're
minister.
trying to
No, I'm talking about
nationalize the issue.
anti-Maratha sentiment.
but then-
Rashidji, I
there's
will
a
just make
Maratha
one
CM.
observation. On a local election where
in
local
Mumbai-
factors
in
will come
Maharashtra.
into play, you are nationalizing the issue. Whereas in a national election, the issue are being localized by the
national election also
opposition.
made lot of
That's what happened.
difference.
Shaila Rashid, your thoughts quickly. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. But am I being asked to share my thoughts on the Haryana election?
On Haryana, we'll come to Jammu and Kashmir in a bit. Your
I'm
thoughts
sorry,
on
I think I'll reserve my comments for J&K because I haven't observed the Haryana election
Okay,
at all.
that's
me
a
just say-
smart way
Anand,
of
one
doing
point
this.
that I want to make is that the Jats may not have the largest majority in Haryana, but they've always set the narrative. Now, BJP, through its cadre, attempted to create a counter narrative. So you had Khattar as CM, but the hegemony in terms of the political discourse of the Jats remains formidable, and perhaps this election demonstrates that it's more sustainable than the counter narrative.
Absolutely.
And secondly, the point is that even though as a cadre-based party, the BJP's vote share may not come down, but as you pointed out, that either it's a factor of the index of opposition unity, that all the others have coalesced together, or people are voting smartly as they often have, tactically.
What about the voter turnout? What about, see, the critical
there is no
pockets? I just want to make one more
politics.
caveat. 'Cause some critical pockets of the BJP, the voter turnout has not been significantly very high. It's below the average number.
Including Mr. Huda's.
The same applies to the Congress party also, that the voter turnout largely has not been very high. So in certain pockets. And if you look at the exit pollster, there's no pollster, Zaka, who's saying it will be a 3-5 except for C voter. C voter is the only one who's giving about 10 to 14 seats to the others. These may be rebel candidates of any political party or whatever they are, but 10 to 14 seats, and also Dainik Bhaskar, which is saying 15 to 17 seats. So there are two pollsters who are saying that there will be a fair share of vote percentage, which will shift to the others beyond Congress and the BJP. How likely is a scenario like this? Because BJP needs this to happen.
I don't think that is plausible, because you can't have 15 to 17 others, whether it is JJP, AAP, Independence, whatever it is, and still the Congress ends up with 45 plus. Or in the case of the C voter survey, it's 50 plus, right? 10 to 14 independents and 50 plus. It doesn't happen. I think that's
there is one voter that we are forgetting, and that's the woman voter, because she doesn't really actually, from all the anecdotal evidence, and this is where Mr. Mattu's analysis comes through, because he says that the Jat vote sets the narrative, and the Jat, the female voters in the Jat community tend to listen to the males. So it's very patriarchal in that sense. And if that continues to be the case, then the BJP has been doing well amongst women voters. That may not kick in for the BJP.
This time the other thing that's happened, Rahul, is because of the wrestlers, the women wrestlers being dragged away. Right. This whole thing, Bitiya ko matlab ye kar di. I think that narrative kind of stuck. And I think a lot of women have turned out to listen to Vinesh Fogart as well.
Does that story actually apply to Vinesh Fogart? Because Vinesh Fogart, after all that event happened, which was closer to the Lok Sabha election, she went to Paris, and there was all effort made to fight for her. But it's those 100 grams eventually which happened, which you can't blame it on the politics. I think
again we're making
the other thing is that this entire protest, was it orchestrated by the Congress, and did they do it for the Congress? Because she eventually joined the Congress party. So does that prove to be counterproductive? Will people say, "Arey, ye to pura politics," does that batter on ground or no?
See, again, we're making the same mistake. We're thinking of it as a monolith. You did have a Sakshi Malik who came forward and did, have her objections about Fogart joining the Congress and what that did to the movement. So it was perceived as a self-serving move by many who are sympathetic to the wrestler cause. So I don't think it's necessarily that cut and dry. And again, I think Rahul brought up the SC/ST part. The fact that Shailja has been sidelined in the way she has, and she is also a tall leader of Haryana. So what impact is that going to have? And will it also have an impact on women voters? Because there is a tendency in the state to be very male-dominated.
No, and not just that. The situation in Haryana, is it better in the last decade for women and things overall in terms of governance than when it was under Jat land? And it's not always been favorable to the Congress. Congress has been lent on because as an opposition party when there is anti-incumbency. Not that it's a favored party in Haryana. That's also history writes itself. Bhupinder Hooda, quickly, to our guests here in the studio, quickly, word on the former Haryana Chief Minister and what works for him and what doesn't work for him. Experienced face, leading front runner for the Chief Minister's post. He's the person who's drafted this entire campaign for the Congress party there. Almost single-handedly, he's the face. Not even his son, it's him. They're out there, putting himself out there. But there is this entire issue of corruption. Will that come back to haunt him? He's a two-time Chief Minister. He came back, he came as a nobody, and then he continued to lead the story. And today for the Congress party, if there is one leader who's perhaps pan-Haryana, is Bhupinder Hooda. And he has been, on the sidelines for a while. But he's under ED scanner, 834 asset seizures case. But has the voter started looking beyond this? Because the BJP, Rahul, in the last decade or so, has done nothing about these cases.
Anand, you just had a Lok Sabha election 3 months ago. So I think all of those things have been factored in. You wouldn't have actually had that kind of consolidation behind the Congress. Look, it's all going to come down to whether, and the BJP is betting big on it, whether the counter caste consolidation takes place or not. Now, this is nothing to do really with performance, economic indicators. This is pure caste derivative politics.
So what about all the Damad and Dalal and all of that? You don't think that's going to have a play
Not at all, because look, you had a commission of inquiry sat to look at what Mr. Vadra had done. Then you had the CBI come out a few months later, just earlier this year, and told the court that we have nothing that is prosecutable on Mr. Vadra. So I think all of that is gone.
So if it doesn't stick on Mr. Vadra, it's surely not going to stick on Mr. Hooda.
That's what I'm saying. And you've already had a Lok Sabha election. And look, there's been a lot of corruption allegations against various opposition leaders, specifically in Karnataka, where again you saw the BJP not sweeping Karnataka in the Lok Sabha. So, you know, there were other states also, Jharkhand, for
Unless
instance.
you act on corruption, I don't think the voter is going to say it sticks on for me anymore.
But the Indian voter has voted for corrupt politicians very
No,
often.
they have.
I mean,
They have.
You know,
the
I
Congress
don't
has the
think that
highest
that's
number
something,
of highest number of candidates with heinous crimes. And the BJP has about 8 or 9% of those candidates. So you have 30%.
But let's
plus.
put it
No,
out
I
there.
think-
The BJP also cannot really say that it's cracking down on corruption when it is onboarding people who it has charged with corruption in the
Look
past.
at Maharashtra.
So,
Exactly.
not just Maharashtra, Bengal, Karnataka, everywhere. It's happened everywhere. It's not that it's
Anand,
happening only here.
I think the only time in a long time, I would say, post Indira Gandhi, the only time when voters actually voted against corruption was when they brought Aam Aadmi Party, you know, into power in Delhi. Otherwise, elsewhere, if you look at all the states and union territories across
No, but
the
I
country,
think the 2014 mandate against the Congress, against
Was
the
okay,
UPA.
Okay, let me quickly ask you,
had a
if
lot to
Congress
do
gets
with
into
it.
pole position,
So
But I have a-
is Huda the chief minister or will they play the Kumari Shelja
Shelja
card for a temporary basis just so that it helps them to get
I
the
don't-
Adivasis and Dalits in Maharashtra?
I don't think
First woman chief minister
good point.
of Haryana, Dalit leader and Maharashtra will play this card to Ladki Behan ka counter yahi hai. Or
Can I just say?
Anand, the first test of a democratic exercise is who has the support of how many elected MLAs. In this case, over 70 have a personal loyalty towards Mr. Bhupender Huda. So I don't see a situation. This is, Shelja's story is more of, the Congress opponents are propping up Shelja's story. See, the Dalit votes are coming to Congress because of overall Rahul Gandhi's sort of sustained campaign relating to Samvidhan Bachao, whatever the political rhetoric that was it. It is nothing to do with Shelja or Ashok Tanwar or others. And all the regional parties that tied up with, Chandrasekhar Ravana and Mayawati's party is a case of 0 plus 0. So it's not going to add up. And Huda is a first among equals as far as regional satraps of Congress are concerned. In fact, not only in Haryana but anywhere in the country, there is no regional satrap who can match Bhupender Huda's stature.
But that's what we said about Gehlot. That's what we were saying about
No,
Baghel.
Gehlot was not
and
Gehlot's
also
Somali
that's what we were
caste.
saying about
What is the percentage
I'm
of-
just saying.
No,
I mean,
Kamal
that's,
Nath, what is the caste percentage of Kamal Nath?
there has been an overstatement of the regional
Overstatement, no, no.
satrap as
These
well.
are all the facts.
But Shelja Kumari, she's been gamed. So when you say the number of MLAs and who they support, a lot of the people, actually most of the people that she wanted tickets for, didn't get them. And
Shelja
Huda's
didn't get assembly ticket. She's a Lok Sabha MP.
Exactly. So when you're already gaming the system against the female Dalit candidate, then what are the chances that she's going to get there?
as that
And
message-
We
she
have
has
it
that-
on the wall.
Yeah.
I just want to bring that. I think Rashid had a point. If 70 out of 90 candidates of the Congress are Huda loyalists, and if he has bulk of the support in the CLP, what is the Dalit factor, the Kumari Shelja impact? Now, remember when the Jat seats, we said there are about 30 odd seats. There are 23 seats where the Dalits are a critical swing vote or a swing constituency. The Congress in the last election had 8 out of those 23. The BJP had 6 out of 23. But look at the others. Between JJP, Independence and INLD, that's 9 seats. In fact, that is more than what the Congress got or what the BJP got. Now, the question is, when the vote finally comes in, where do these 9 seats go? And look at the vote share that is outstanding. We're looking at 35-36% of vote that is outstanding just in these 9 seats. How does that 36% vote split? Does it split again amongst these independents, JJP and INLD, or does it go to either of these two parties? I think the BJP is hoping that this vote remains the way it is, that these seats break out the way they did or similar to the way they did in 2019, that there are beneficiaries like JJP, INLD and other independents rather than a consolidation, because if it consolidate, it generally tends to go with the anti-incumbent and not with the incumbent.
And has the BJP been able to buck this entire trend of anti-incumbency by doing away with Khattar before the Lok Sabha elections? Naib Singh Saini, has he been able to create an impact? Will that do it? Will that, what they tried in Gujarat, will it work here? Those are all factors. The ballot has been cast. It's now about the counting, and we are counting down to that. See you after a break.